My GF said I was replaceable and she was settling for me. Later, she begged me to take her back after realizing she wasn't as wanted as she thought. I am 28, have been with my girlfriend Sarah, F26, for 3 years. We met through mutual friends at a local pub quiz night, and things just clicked. She was smart, funny, and beautiful. I thought I'd hit the jackpot. For the first 2 years, everything seemed perfect. We moved in together, adopted a cat named Whiskers, and even started talking about our future. A bit about me: I work as a software developer for a mid-sized tech company. I'm not exactly setting the world on fire, but I make decent money and enjoy what I do. I've always been more of an introvert, preferring quiet nights in with a good book or video game over wild parties. Sarah, on the other hand, is a social butterfly. She works in marketing and always seems to be the life of the party. When we first got together, I thought our differences complemented each other well. She brought me out of my shell, and I helped ground her when she needed it. We had our routines. Friday night was date night, Saturdays were for exploring new restaurants or attractions in the city, and Sundays were our lazy days, just cuddling on the couch with Whiskers and binge watching our favorite shows. But about 6 months ago, things started to change. Sarah got a promotion at work, and suddenly she was spending more time at the office and less time with me. At first, I tried to be supportive. I knew how important her career was to her, and I was proud of her success. I'd have dinner waiting when she got home late, listen to her vent about difficult clients, and try to give her space when she needed to work on weekends. However, as weeks turned into months, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Our date nights became less frequent, often canceled at the last minute due to work emergencies. When we did spend time together, Sarah seemed distracted, constantly checking her phone or talking about her colleagues rather than engaging with me. I tried to talk to her about it several times. "Is everything okay?" I'd ask. "You seem distant lately." But Sarah would always brush it off, saying she was just stressed about work and that things would calm down soon. I wanted to believe her, but a nagging doubt had taken root in my mind. Then came the night that changed everything. It was supposed to be our date night, a chance to reconnect after weeks of barely seeing each other. I had planned a romantic dinner at home, Sarah's favorite pasta dish, candles, the works. But at 7 p.m., just as I was setting the table, I got a text: "Sorry, babe. Last-minute client meeting. Don't wait up." I was crushed. This was the third date night in a row that she'd cancelled. I tried to swallow my disappointment and settled in for another lonely night with Whiskers and Netflix. But around midnight, I heard keys in the door. Sarah stumbled in, clearly tipsy, smelling of alcohol and cigarette smoke. "I thought you had a client meeting," I said, trying to keep the accusation out of my voice. Sarah rolled her eyes. "It finished early, so a few of us went for drinks." "What's the big deal?" "The big deal is that you cancelled our plans, again, and couldn't even be bothered to let me know you were going out instead." That's when the argument started. We'd had disagreements before, but nothing like this. All the frustration and hurt I'd been bottling up for months came pouring out. I told her how neglected I'd been feeling, how it seemed like her job and her coworkers were more important to her than our relationship. Sarah got defensive, accusing me of being clingy and unsupportive of her career. The argument escalated, voices raised, until finally, after a few too many glasses of wine, Sarah dropped the bombshell that shattered my world. "You know what? You're replaceable. I'm just settling for you anyway." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The woman I loved, the person I thought I'd spend my life with, saw me as replaceable? A placeholder until something better came along? I couldn't believe it. I asked her to explain what she meant, hoping there was some misunderstanding. But Sarah doubled down. She said she'd always felt like she could do better, that she was only with me because it was comfortable and easy. She even admitted to flirting with her new coworker, a guy named Chad, yes, really, who she claimed was more her type. "He's ambitious," she said. "He knows what he wants and goes after it. Not like you, always playing it safe, content with your little coding job and your quiet nights in." Each word felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I didn't yell or scream. I just went quiet, packed a bag, and left. I crashed at my best friend Mike's place for a few days, trying to process what had happened. Sarah kept calling and texting, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. How do you come back from something like that? Mike was a godsend during those first few days. He let me crash on his couch, listened to me rant and rave, and even took a few days off work to help keep me distracted. We binged stupid action movies, played video games until our eyes hurt, and he dragged me to the gym to work out some of my frustration. "You know you deserve better than this, right?" Mike said one night, as we were nursing beers on his balcony. Sarah's always been a bit full of herself, but this is next level bullshit. I nodded, but part of me still couldn't quite believe it was real. How had we gone from talking about our future together to this? After a week, I went back to our apartment to collect more of my things. Sarah was there, crying and begging me to forgive her. She said she'd made a horrible mistake, that she didn't mean any of it, and that she loved me more than anything. But all I could hear were those words echoing in my head, replaceable and settling. I told her I needed time and space to think. I moved in with Mike temporarily and threw myself into work in the gym, trying to distract myself from the pain. Sarah continued to blow up my phone with messages and voicemails, alternating between apologies and accusations that I was being cruel by ignoring her. As days turned into weeks, I started to reflect on our relationship. Had there been signs I'd missed? Red flags I'd ignored? I thought back to all the times Sarah had made offhand comments about her exes, how successful or good-looking they were. At the time, I'd brushed it off as harmless reminiscing, but now I wondered if there had always been a part of her that felt she was settling. I also started to question my own self-worth. Had I become too comfortable, too complacent in our relationship? Should I have pushed harder in my career, been more outgoing, more ambitious as Sarah had put it? These thoughts kept me up at night, tossing and turning on Mike's lumpy couch. A month went by, and I finally agreed to meet Sarah for coffee. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, hair a mess. She launched into a lengthy apology, saying she'd been stressed about work and took it out on me unfairly. She swore she'd never felt that way about me and that losing me had made her realize how much she truly loved and valued me. Then came the kicker. Sarah admitted that she'd tried to pursue something with Chad, her coworker, after our fight. But it turned out he wasn't interested in anything serious and had basically used her for a one-night stand. Now she was begging me to take her back, saying she'd made a huge mistake and that I was the best thing that ever happened to her. I was an idiot, she said, tears streaming down her face. I got caught up in the excitement of my new job, the attention from Chad. I lost sight of what really matters. You're not replaceable, not at all. You're everything to me, and I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you if you'll let me. Part of me wanted to forgive her. I still loved her, despite everything. But another part of me couldn't forget those cruel words and the fact that she'd only come crawling back after things didn't work out with Chad. Would we be having this conversation if Chad had wanted a relationship? Or would Sarah be with him now, leaving me in the dust? I told Sarah I needed more time to think. She cried and pleaded, saying she'd do anything to make it right. But I just couldn't shake the feeling that I deserved better than being someone's second choice or safety net. Over the next few weeks, I did a lot of soul searching. I talked to friends, family, even booked a few sessions with a therapist to try and sort through my feelings. My sister, Kate, was particularly vocal about the situation. She showed you who she really is, Kate said during one of our long phone calls. Believe her. You deserve someone who chooses you first, not someone who comes back because their first choice didn't pan out. But my mom had a different take. Relationships aren't perfect, sweetheart, she said. People make mistakes. If you still love her, maybe it's worth trying to work things out. I went back and forth, making pros and cons lists, analyzing every aspect of our relationship. There were good times, great times even. Sarah had been there for me when I lost my job 2 years ago, supporting me both emotionally and financially until I got back on my feet. We had talked about marriage, kids, growing old together. Could I really throw all of that away? But every time I started to lean towards forgiveness, I'd remember the look on her face when she called me replaceable. The casual cruelty in her voice when she said she was settling for me. And I'd wonder, even if I forgave her, could I ever really trust her again? After much deliberation, I made my decision. I met Sarah one last time at our favorite coffee shop, the place where we had our first date. She looked hopeful when I walked in, a small smile on her face that faded as soon as she saw my expression. I'm sorry, I said, sitting down across from her. I've thought about this a lot, and I can't do it. I can't continue our relationship. Sarah's face crumpled. But why? I said I was sorry. I'll do anything, please, just give me another chance. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice steady. It's not about the apology, Sarah. It's about trust. You didn't just say those things in the heat of the moment, you acted on them. You pursued Chad, and you're only here now because it didn't work out with him. How can I ever be sure that you won't feel like you're settling again in the future? How can I trust that you won't leave me the next time someone you think is better comes along? Sarah didn't take it well. She accused me of being unforgiving and throwing away 3 years over one mistake. She said I was punishing her for being honest about her feelings. But to me, It wasn't just about that one night, it was about the realization that she'd been harboring those thoughts for who knows how long. "I'm not trying to punish you," I said. "I'm trying to protect myself. We both deserve to be with someone who truly wants to be with us, not someone who feels like they're settling." I left the coffee shop feeling both heartbroken and relieved. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I knew in my gut it was the right decision. It's been 2 months since that final conversation. I've moved into my own place and am slowly putting my life back together. Sarah still reaches out occasionally, usually when she's been drinking, alternating between apologies and bitter accusations. I've had to block her number and on social media, as much for her sake as for mine. The aftermath hasn't been easy. Some of our mutual friends have taken sides. A few think I'm being too harsh, that everyone says things they don't mean in the heat of an argument. They say I'm throwing away a good relationship over pride. But others understand why I can't go back, why those words cut too deep to simply forgive and forget. I've thrown myself into work and my hobbies. I've started learning Spanish, something I've always wanted to do but never found the time for when I was with Sarah. I've been going to the gym regularly with Mike, and I'm in the best shape of my life. Whiskers is with me in the new apartment, a constant source of comfort on the nights when the loneliness feels overwhelming. But I can't help but wonder sometimes if I made the right choice. There are nights when I miss Sarah terribly and am tempted to call her back. I miss the way she'd sing off-key in the shower, the little dance she'd do when she was excited about something, the way she'd absent-mindedly play with my hair when we watched movies. I miss the future we had planned together. But then I remember how it felt to be called replaceable, to know that the person I loved was actively looking for an upgrade. And I know that no matter how much it hurts now, I made the right decision for myself. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for not giving Sarah a second chance? Should I have been more forgiving, or did I do the right thing by walking away? I'm still struggling to make sense of it all and could use some outside perspectives. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up like it did. Thank you all for your responses and support. I wanted to address a few common points and provide some additional context. 1. To those asking about the cat, Whiskers is staying with me. Sarah agreed that since I was the one who initially wanted to adopt him and did most of his care, it made sense for him to stay with me. Plus, her new place doesn't allow pets. 2. Many have pointed out that Sarah's behavior sounds like she might have some underlying issues, possibly depression or low self-esteem. While that may be true, and I hope she gets help if she needs it, it doesn't excuse her actions or words. 3. Some have suggested that Sarah might have been trying to push me away intentionally, either as a form of self-sabotage or to make me fight for the relationship. If that's the case, it backfired spectacularly and is still a very immature way to handle relationship issues. 4. To those calling Sarah names or saying cruel things about her, please don't. Despite everything, she was an important part of my life for 3 years, and I don't hate her. I'm hurt and angry, but I don't wish her ill. 5. A few people have asked if there were any red flags before this incident. Looking back, there were some small things I brushed off. Sarah would sometimes make comments about her exes being more successful or attractive, but always in a joking manner. She was very active on social media and seemed overly concerned with her image and how others perceived her. There were a couple of instances where she got overly flirty with other guys when drunk, but she always apologized and said it meant nothing. 6. For those wondering about the timeline with Chad, from what I've pieced together, Sarah pursued him pretty much immediately after our fight. Their fling lasted about 2 weeks before he made it clear he wasn't interested in anything serious. It was after this rejection that Sarah started seriously trying to reconcile with me. 7. Some have asked if I've started dating again. The answer is no, not yet. I'm focusing on myself right now, therapy, gym, hobbies, and spending time with friends and family. I'm not ready to put myself out there again, but I'm hopeful for the future. 8. To address the comments about my own self-worth, yes, this experience has definitely shaken my confidence. I'm working on rebuilding my self-esteem and learning to value myself more. It's a process, but I'm getting there. 9. Many have shared similar stories of being treated as second best or a placeholder in relationships. It's both comforting and saddening to know I'm not alone in this experience. To anyone going through something similar, you deserve someone who chooses you first, always. 10. Lastly, to those saying I should have fought harder for the relationship or that love means forgiveness, I understand where you're coming from, but I disagree. Sometimes love means knowing when to walk away, both for your own sake and for the other person's. I believe that by staying, I would be telling Sarah that it's okay to treat me as a backup plan, and I would be telling myself that I don't deserve better. Thank you all again for your input and support. Reading through your comments has been both emotional and cathartic. I'm still processing everything, but I feel more confident in my decision. Here's to healing and hopefully finding someone in the future who values me as much as I value them. Update, 3 months later. Hey everyone, I wanted to provide an update on my situation. First off, thank you all again for your support and advice. Your comments really helped me through some dark times and gave me the strength to stick to my decision. The past few months have been a roller coaster, but I'm in a much better place now. I've been seeing a therapist regularly, which has been incredibly helpful in processing my feelings and working on my self-esteem issues. I've also thrown myself into new hobbies. I've taken up rock climbing and joined a local book club, both of which have been great for meeting new people and keeping my mind occupied. Work has been going well too. I actually got a promotion last month, which has been both challenging and rewarding. It's nice to feel valued and appreciated, especially after everything that happened with Sarah. Speaking of Sarah, I've had minimal contact with her since my last post. She reached out a few times in the beginning, usually late at night, I assume after drinking, but I maintained my boundaries and kept responses brief and to the point. Eventually, the messages stopped coming. I did run into her at a mutual friend's birthday party last week. It was awkward at first, but we managed to be civil. She looked good and seemed to be doing well. We had a brief conversation where she apologized again for everything and said she was also seeing a therapist to work on her issues. I wished her well, and we went our separate ways. It was a bit of a closure moment for me, and I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. As for my dating life, I've started to dip my toes back in the water. I'm not rushing into anything serious, but I've been on a few casual dates. It's been nice to remember that there are other fish in the sea, so to speak. Overall, I feel like I'm in a much healthier place now. The pain isn't gone completely, I don't think you ever fully forget something like that, but it's more of a dull ache now rather than the sharp pain it once was. I'm learning to trust again, both others and myself. Thank you again, Reddit, for being there during one of the toughest periods of my life. Your support meant more than you know. Here's to new beginnings and brighter futures for all of us.